There's a little bit of good news, a little bit of bad news. The good news, Kyrie's back. The bad news, Luke is not. What does it mean other than kind of being a little bit of bad news? We'll break that down and more on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. Welcome to the DLLS Mavs pregame show. My name is Bobby Corella, and I'm here in the DLLS Sports Studio kind of by myself. We got Tanner off camera, but not on mic for some reason. He's just ducking the smoke, I guess. He forgot to set up the mic. We'll do that for postgame. We'll be joined momentarily live from the arena by the great Tim Cato. Mark Stein will be joining us on the postgame. Kevin Gray is going to be out of town this week, taking some time with the fam. Also, I believe today is Kevin Gray's birthday. Is that right, Tanner? I don't remember. It might be Sunday, I'm being told. Either way, happy birthday, Kevin Gray. Over the next half hour, we are going to be getting you ready for tip-off at American Airlines Center as the Mavs look to bounce back against those feisty LA Clippers. Obviously, they played a couple nights ago, and it didn't go too well. Quick recap of that game. The Mavs lost that one 118-95. Norm Powell led the way for the Clippers with 29 points on 10 of 19 shooting and 4 of 8 from 3. He is still this year, believe it or not, shooting better than 50% in wins when he plays. So the hotter he is, the tougher they are to beat. James Harden had 24 points and 7 assists. Ivica Zubac had 21 points and 15 boards. And my God, man, that dude was a capital P problem in the fourth quarter. He had 7 points and 5 boards in the fourth quarter alone. Gave Dereck Lively all sorts of fits. It wasn't just Lively, though. Daniel Gafford struggled, too. We'll break that down, how they can muster up some answers for the big, I believe, Croatian. If not, I apologize. In the middle, Amir Coffey scored 16 points off the bench. He actually matched the entire Mavs bench in that game. That is a tough thing. But, of course, with Kyrie Irving back, that means maybe they'll have a little more offense off the pine tonight. Meanwhile, for the Mavs, Klay Thompson led the way with 22 points on 9 of 17 shooting. They found some ways to get him the ball, and I'll talk with that man about it. Spencer Dinwiddie had 19 points, 7 assists. PJ Watch had 14 points and 9 rebounds. Tim Cato joining us live from the arena now. Tim, what's it like over there?
Haven't we talked about not giving you coffee before the shows?
Dude, I have had
Tanner, why'd you let this happen?
I'm just powering through it. I had to bring the juice tonight. I'm going au natural. Now on the postgame show, there's no guarantees, but Tim, as I understand it, you'll be in the studio for postgame hanging out with me. So we'll see how that goes. Tanner, Tim, just so you know.
I will be here, yes.
Tanner is not brave enough to have a microphone for the pregame show. He keeps saying he forgot. I don't know if I believe that or not, but either way, Tim, give me the before we get into the injury report, obviously the big news of the day, Kyrie's playing, Luka's still out. Before we run through who else is in and out for both teams, what's the vibe like at the arena tonight? What was said? What was talked about?
I mean, there's a lot of children here for Luka Doncic and his organization. That did I see the number right? 7,500 children here on Luka Doncic's dime.
That's a lot. Maybe.
Yeah, that seemed like a lot to me. But I did see a lot of children wandering around. I think supervised. I think there were parental guardians
in place. Change the subject as soon as you can. This is getting uncomfortable.
Yeah. Besides that, I mean, yeah, it's a relief that Kyrie Irving is back. Certainly, the idea is that, usually, often, sometimes with these baseball series, they tend to be splits because baseball series are kind of new to the NBA, but a home and home is not. Mm-hmm. It is pretty often that a team would go play a team and then travel to go play that team 2 days later. And historically, what we knew about those is that the stats kind of indicated that a lot of times teams split those. And, just the familiarity, the comfort of just having the exact same matchup and being able to be, look at what the team did wrong in the first one and translate to the second game. So I think that's the sense that I'm getting from the team here, the players, Jason Kidd. It's a time to go get a win, and they know how to do it because they just didn't do it. They definitely just didn't do it against the Clippers just 2 days ago. So seemed apt, seems ripe for a team to come out and fix some of those mistakes. And the biggest mistake was like not having Luka Doncic and Kyrie out there, which isn't really a mistake. So Kyrie changes everything.
He does change everything.
It's 750 children.
Okay, all right,
which is a much more reasonable number than
that's much
7,
less
500.
Nightmarish. Yes, 7,500 kids is like, I don't think the arena has enough nachos for that. With Kyrie back, we'll talk a little bit about some X factors and keys to the game in the next segment. But with Kyrie back, you wrote this article after the last game talking about all the dribble handoffs the Mavs did, and I actually wrote a kind of an offshoot of that about all the dribble handoffs they ran specifically for Klay. Yeah, sort of. Yeah. For all the handoffs they ran for Klay Thompson, they ran a season high 29 DHOs. The idea being that with Kyrie and Luka out and Hardy out to a degree, there was just not a lot of playmaking on the floor. And so in order to yank Zubats away and try and create some sort of driving lanes or advantageous opportunities for the offense, they bring the center out to the elbow or the high key or even the three-point line, run a lot of handoffs and see what happens. With Kyrie back, though, it seems like there's more opportunities to run more pick and rolls, to run more natural, sort of like conventional stuff that the team is used to. Do you expect that to be the case? And if not, why not?
I mean, I think Kyrie is far more comfortable with those actions, or like he prefers them. He finds him. I think he thinks, or he gets more advantages from those actions than Luka does, just based off their play style. And that, so I do think that now that the team, just spent a game doing that, I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie kind of fits into that. I don't think they're going to run as many as they did 2 nights ago, because I think 2 nights ago was purely a product of both superstars and even Jaden Hardy and Dante Exum being out. But I do think that Kyrie Irving likes those. So think all the way back to when Kyrie Irving was traded here.
Real quick, Tim, real quick. Eric Rios in the chat says, Tim and Bobby, help me give away these tickets. Anyone here that can still make it to the game in time? I have 2 free tickets to the game tonight. So hit up Eric Rios in the comments. Eric, you are a magnanimous guy for doing that. I'm sorry to cut you off, Tim.
Shout out Eric.
What a mensch.
Let's give it like 2 minutes, and then we can tweet it from the DLLS Mavs account.
Yeah, for sure.
Eric, if you're cool with that, let us know if that works for you. But we're happy to tweet it from our account as well. Let's see. So think back to when Kyrie was traded here 2 years ago, and Luka was out going into that stretch where he was absent when Kyrie was traded here, and so they had played a couple games with, I think they played 2 games without anybody because Spencer Dinwiddie was in the deal, and so Dorian was in the deal. So those players weren't available. Kyrie wasn't yet available. Luka was out. And there was a game in there where Jaden Hardy and Josh Green scored 29 apiece. You remember that game?
I remember very well. I made a video about it.
And so a lot of what Dallas did was what they tried to do on Thursday, as you well know. And they ran a lot of DHOs. But the point that I'm coming to here is that when Kyrie debuted, he played 2 games without Luka? I think it was a game against the Clippers, a game against Sacramento, and then there was it was a baseball series. In fact, I want to say, so there's a second game against I might be mixing stuff up, but there was a game in there where Kyrie debuts with the team, and it's still the same personnel, and they had been running this offense in this way, and there was so much motion, so much movement. It was like a really startling watch of how differently the offense looked for there for a few games, and Kyrie seamlessly kind of blended into it. And I think that I do kind of expect that to happen tonight. I also think, maybe I'm just projecting, I think Kyrie likes different challenges. I think he has done so much on the basketball court that if you tell him, hey, we've been running like a really motion handoff DHO heavy offense. And he's like, oh, that sounds fun. That sounds like a little bit differently than sometimes how I play. And, not to the expense that they're going to do something that isn't, helping the team win. But I do think Kyrie he's someone who really embraces every aspect of basketball. And if that's how the team was playing, and if he has the green light from the coaching staff to just kind of fit into that, I do think it's very Kyrie. It's very like him. It's very, it fits with everything about his, this final chapter of his basketball prime, where he talks about being a stretch four, where he talks about wanting to be known for every aspect of the game, whether it's defense or rebounding, playing on or off the ball. This is a guy who, rightly views himself as more than just a dribble artist. He views himself as more than just a scorer, more than just LeBron's sidekick when he won a ring. He views himself as like one of the most fundamentally, one of the purest, fundamentally sound basketball players. Basketball players, not shooters, not dribblers, not scorers, players, that the game has ever seen. And I do think that, Dallas provided him the opportunity for him to do that. But I think he is also on a mission to make that much more his legacy than everything else that came before it. I think that's something that matters to him. And so I do think that, within that very broad, maybe a little bit too much of psychoanalyzing of what basketball, what Kyrie is, what basketball means to him at this point of his career. Although, again, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. I've spent a lot of time asking him questions about this. I think it's a fair summation. I could see him being like, let's go do DHOs. Dereck Lively, I am going to be giving you the ball so many times and running you around you in every single ways that you have never even imagined. How's that for a very thorough answer?
It's a very thorough answer. I'm impressed. I expect Derrick Jones to guard Kyrie tonight, and that'll be a fun matchup to watch. Maybe excruciating, depending on what kind of mood Jones is in. Did Dereck Lively gain 50 pounds in muscle since the last game? And if not, what is the plan for him and Daniel Gafford to slow down Ivica Zubac?
He is going to wear a muscle suit.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And so, does it make him stronger? No. Does it intimidate Zubac? No.
You can't say that for certain. I want to point that out.
How would you make it most convincing? Does he need to wear compression sleeves over it? Compression
you gotta
looks like actual muscle.
Wear full scuba gear, kind of like Reggie Jackson used to do, and then it's very discreet in that respect.
Yeah, that's a good point. The plan to deal with Zubac inside, I would say, is pray. No, it's score more. It's score more. That's the answer. I mean, and that's seriously that's the gist of the answer, is that you can live with him scoring 20 points if that's what it takes. You're going to do everything you did in the last game, and it might not work. That's one part of the Clippers offense. That is not the entirety of the Clippers offense. Zubac cannot score 100 points. So he can score 40, he can score 50, he can hurt you. He can have a very efficient, he can make up a very efficient, very frustrating part of their offense tonight. But if you defend on all the other areas, if you make sure that if you can't stop him, you just make sure he's the only one going off. You do what you can. That's not to say you leave him one-on-one every single time. But you do what you can to stop him. And if you can't, and if you can't, that's okay, because they have other aspects of their offense that are not very good. And that's the crucial part. They're not very good. It's not a very good offensive team. So what you do is you concede that Zubac is going to be very good, and then you go have a much better offensive game on the other end, and that probably should work.
Try and do a better job of staying in front of James Harden too. Down the stretch of that game, they were really, really ruthlessly targeting Dinwiddie in the pick and roll, getting Dinwiddie switched onto Harden late, and he was able to get by him. They really struggled with Norm Powell. And sometimes they were late getting out to him. Sometimes they were early getting out to him, and he just floored it and got past them. 8 3-point attempts is too much for that guy. I'm trying to take him out of the offense. I don't really care. I'm with you on Zubac. Just no cheap fouls, no goaltending. Don't be dumb. If he gets position on you, just do your best, but don't foul him. All right, coming up here pretty soon, we're going to talk about our keys to the game. and a little bit more. But first, I'm talking to you about my pick of the game on Sleeper. I decided, you know what, Zubats, he averages a double-double. I saw enough last game. I think he's going to do it again. Kyrie coming back, I agree with Tim. Kyrie embraces challenges, so I'm taking Kyrie for at least 40 points plus rebounds plus assists. Also, Spencer Dinwiddie, I think he's going to play off the ball a little more in this game, and so I'm taking Dinwiddie to knock down at least 2 threes or more than 1.5, I guess. And then Derrick Jones, I think he's going to knock down a 3. And when that hits, when that $5 play hits, I am going to make $43.75 because on Sleeper, you can multiply your winnings up to 100 times your initial play by stacking choices. Use promo code DLLS Mavs. Create a new account, deposit $5, and you get 55 free buckaroos to play with. And it is all legal, all straightforward in Texas. Very simple to use. Download Sleeper today. Tim, back to business here.
Sorry,
what's the deal with Maxey, man? They tried to go, in the past, whenever a big man is giving them the business down low, especially when they're losing, they'll put Maxey in at the 5 and just kind of try and be annoying, spread the floor on offense and make it work. But it really feels like Maxey over these last couple weeks has just really kind of, when he's been in the game, he's kind of failed to make an impact. He's been dealing with his own injuries, obviously. But should we be concerned about that area of the roster, obviously, as we enter trade season?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm absolutely worried about Maxey. I don't know how you can't be. I mean, this is the worst we've ever seen his offense, ever. His entire career. He has never been a worse offensive player than he has been this season. It was this calendar year, like months ago, where he was very good. Very good defender but good offense. He's providing good offense throughout the Clipper series, at stretches of last spring. I still think that's in him, but he has very clearly shown that the inconsistency is only going to stay with him. I can't imagine seeing this many bad stretches that he's gone through on the offensive end, and imagining that he's just going to all of a sudden, like for 80 straight games, look like a different player. I don't really understand why. I can't explain why it's shooting, that he won't do. I mean, usually as players age, they get more comfortable shooting, and even as he goes through all these injuries, weirdly enough, it's the driving that actually has tended to get him hurt. It's the driving that he keeps wanting to do on the offensive end. So that's very odd to me. But at some point, I need to. I've been meaning to try to snag him and kind of see where he's at, see where his head's at. We'll plan to do that soon.
It's tough because from a distance, it's like you almost want to prescribe it as confidence or rhythm or some sort of like intangible thing. But we can't say that for sure. We just don't know. But I mean, I know what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing is a guy that is just not as impactful as he was even last season or the year before. Certainly 3 years ago, whenever, I mean, he was so indispensable to that conference finals team. But, and I still think the best version of this team at least maintains him as an option, either as backup 4 or backup 5. Ideally backup 5 in a series against like the Celtics or the Thunder, for example, if they're going to roll out Chet at the 5. Like,
right.
They need a guy that can do that, and Maxey's the only player on the team that can. But if you can't count on him, then, I mean, you might have to look elsewhere.
It's something I'm sure they're thinking about. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's an important player to the team. It doesn't mean he's not tradable, but I do want to clarify that. I get it. But people, he absolutely, he is tradable, and ultimately that's what it comes down to. But I think he's very valued by this front office. He has been very valued by this coaching staff. He's been very valued, even when fans thought he shouldn't be. And he had moments like the series against the Clippers where they were dead right. And it's just a matter of him getting back to some sense of, the player he was, obviously. So like last season, he was not, I wouldn't, for the entirety of last season, I would say that he wasn't even an average offensive player. He was below average last season, but he was below average, and he was still well above average defensively. The defensive impact is fading a little bit. I think that's clear. You still see really good moments. I think as a smart defender, he is still as smart as he ever was. He is very, very good at positioning. This is why the coaches love him. is that he's always making the rotation. He's making the rotation before the guy's even there. So sometimes, and I am someone guilty of this as well. Sometimes I don't see it, because he is always where the opposing player is going to be. But the splash plays are not there quite as often. I still think absolutely he's an above average player on the defensive end for them. But he's not a great defender. It's not anything near all defense like short list, not top 30, in the league. There was times that he was like a top 20, top 25 defender in the NBA. I think you would agree with me, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, he was a fantastic player, fantastic team and individual defender.
Yeah.
But
so if he can just get back to, a bit above average defensively, or not get back to that, but stay at that level and get back to a bit below average offensively, specifically with his 3-pointer, I don't think he needs to do anything else. It's just the threes. If he's just comfortable shooting threes, that does really change things. But it's because I have enjoyed watching him as a player and enjoyed him as a person, covering him for as long as I have, since he's been one of the long tenured players on this team. It's a bummer to watch.
It is a bummer. Love Maxey. Love the guy. Love the player. Let's run down some quick nuts and bolts before we start talking about some keys to the game. Mavs 17-10. Here's their injury report. Still no Luka, left heel contusion. Sorry. No Jaden Hardy, right ankle sprain. It feels like he's going to be back soon. I mean, I would hope really soon. Dante Exum still out with the right wrist surgery.
Jason Kidd said in the pregame press conference he's still doing left-handed work. So
who's that?
Probably Dante Exum.
Oh, okay. I was like, why does that matter for Jaden Hardy? But okay.
No, for Dante Exum. So he's still doing. He's still not using his right hand, which I've got to admit, I can't imagine it's like if you haven't used your right hand for shooting specifically. I can't imagine, like at minimum, it's a couple weeks of using that right hand, on the basketball court. It sounds like it's still going to be a little bit for him.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess like the good thing though about having a hand injury is that you can still use your feet, still use your legs. It's like cardio and stuff shouldn't be hopefully that big of an issue. But Brandon Williams still out as well, and so what do all of those players have in common, Tim? They can all dribble the ball. But luckily, Kyrie is back for the Mavs, so that is one more playmaker added to the mix. Because, boy, they were really hurting for that last game. Clippers, meanwhile, 16-12. Every guy that was out last game is still out tonight, so it's pretty much the same team that we're seeing out there. Only other game of consequence tonight in the Western Conference, at least, is Warriors at Timberwolves. Mavs take on the Timberwolves, of course, on Christmas Day. Tim.
What a lousy game that turned into.
What's that?
The Christmas Day game.
Mavs Wolves?
Nothing about Minnesota is interesting to me right now.
Oh, dude! I mean, they're a game behind fifth.
Yeah, but they're not fun to watch.
You should tell them that to their face and record it and put it on the DLLS Sports YouTube channel.
Okay.
All right.
I thought violence is like would get our YouTube account like flagged. They might.
I mean that's what they would call a pwn.
They might slap me.
I doubt it. That. Tim, all right, I got 3 keys to the game. Three X factors, 3 elements that could sway whether this is a win or a loss for the boys in blue or whatever jersey they're wearing tonight. I'm not sure. With Kyrie back, we might see the bigs rolling to the rim, which could be good. But gooder than rolling to the rim is having your bigs near the rim when those shots go up, because that could lead to some second chances. And anyone that is a diehard that read DLLS Sports or alldlls.com/Mavericks lately would know that the more offensive rebounds the Mavs get, the better. And that is especially true, I think, about Daniel Gafford, whose minutes probably won't be overlapping as much with Zubas's tonight. Tim, could you refresh why offensive rebounds is such a kind of a decisive stat for the Mavs?
So I went out there. There's an article that inspired this by a Celtics blogger, and he was talking about if we, and he was basically found an if we stat from the Celtics, and what he meant by that is that if the Celtics do this statistical thing that is within their control, And that statistical thing for the Celtics was shoot 35% on threes. That's below league average. That's it. Shoot 35% on threes. They won 90% of the time because of the way their team is built, because of how many threes they shoot, because of the defense that they bring to every game. If the offense just had a slightly below average night, average night, but like quite frankly, slightly below average night, they would win 90% of the time or 91%. So I was curious if Dallas had a stat like that. They don't have anything that quite that damning. And again, we're talking about things that are realistic. We're not saying, yes, if Dallas shoots 75% on threes, they shoot 75% from the field, they shoot, if they make 97 threes, they have never lost a game. We know that. But grabbing 1 out of every 4 missed shots, that's not a hard thing to do. That is also below the league average. That's 25%, a 25% rebounding rate, offensive rebounding rate. League average is like 26.7. So that is below average. And since the trade deadline, since they got Daniel Gafford, since they got PJ Washington, when Dallas does that, they win 80% of the time, which I thought really stood out to me.
That's a good stat.
And I have some theories. Yeah, I have some theories on why that is. Mostly just that the offense is really good and you can't give them second chances. But this is something that, correlated in, last regular season, so far this regular season, in the postseason, last 2 nights ago when they lost, offensive rebounding rate, 23, not high enough. And again, that's a kind of cheap version of that because this stat is much more correlated to the offense being awesome. And obviously, if Luka and Kyrie aren't out there, it's not going to be as good. But yeah, it's just a really fascinating thing about how important that is really to the team's success and to their game plan.
Yeah, over the last 9 games, they're 7-2, 7-0 when they rebound more than 25% of their misses, 0-2 when they rebound 25% or less. So there you go. Kyrie's speed, big element of this game. Not only his playmaking, but also his ability to get up and down the floor. The Mavs in Thursday night's loss were just 3 of 9 on fast break field goal attempts, which is brutal. They also had a fast break flub whenever Klay tried to lob it up for Omax. And so in the open floor, which is ostensibly the easiest time to score, they made it look really, really difficult. They scored better in the half court, but obviously this team wants to play at a faster pace. And with Kyrie's ability to not only rebound, but also get out in the open floor and run, force some turnovers, do some things. Hopefully they'll be able to generate some bunnies that way. And then lastly, Tim, Amir Coffey and Kevin Porter Jr. in the last game for the Clippers combined for 28 points off the bench. Coffey had 16 by himself, which matched the Mavs' total output. Now the Mavs tonight are starting Kyrie, Dinwiddie, PJ Washington, Klay Thompson, and Lively. And so it's going to be Grimes off the bench. It's going to be Najee Marshall off the bench. Starting Kyrie and Dinwiddie, I think, together is sort of interesting. But what do you make about this is kind of like I don't know where I'm going with this question. I just wanted to point out that the Clippers had a lot of depth in the last game and it really hurt the Mavs. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree with that. You can make an argument that Grimes and Najee's roles are off the bench, whereas Spencer Dinwiddie's role is spot starter, and I don't think he's going to be a rotation player every single game the rest of the season. I think there will be some nights where there just doesn't make sense for him in the rotation. I do think eventually that may be the case. So yeah, Kevin Gray, get out of the chat. You're on vacation.
Yeah, Kevin, go have fun. Do something
Kevin,
fun.
go have fun.
Like not watching this show. Just kidding.
Yeah. Don't hang out with these bum losers. But yeah, no, I think that's important, and I agree. Probably, you can still stagger those guys even if they both start. I don't think they're not going to play a minute without one of them on the court. But
I don't like starting them together in this game because someone has to guard Harden, someone has to guard Norm Powell. And I just don't really like either of them having to do that for longer than one possession at a time. So it's a little spooky. But, Tim, we're running out of time. I bid you farewell, and we will see you, I think, here after the game, right? You're gonna hustle over to the studio?
I will do my best, which is to say I will be here. There.
Okay. Hey, your best is always good enough, but just make sure that it's good enough for me, too.
Okay. Got it. Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, thanks. Bye, Tim. Hey, so that is our DLLS Mavs pregame show. Tune back into this channel right here after the game. Give us 10 or 15 minutes after the game to get things set up and to give Tim some time to get over here from the arena. And we will bring you an hour of that good, sweet post-game coverage breaking down Mavs and Clippers. Hopefully a Mavs win. Hopefully Kyrie Irving goes just ballistic tonight. And it's a bonanza. We're going to have a big old hootenanny here in the studio. We'll get Tanner a microphone. Mark Stein will join us from somewhere. I don't know where, whether it's the arena or Orlando or, I mean, who even knows? You'll have to tune in to find out, all right? Until then, he's Tanner off camera. I'm Bobby on camera. That was Tim from somewhere else in the world. You're awesome, and we'll see you here in a few hours for the post-game show. Have a good...
We all silly like the mayor.